The HOA president was still holding the pink stun gun when the neighborhood dogs began howling. My palms stung from the slap I'd already delivered. My phone was on speaker with 911, and my 10-year-old was sitting on the curb with a glittery jump rope and the wide-eyed stare children get when adults forget how to be them. I'm Evan Rohr, an accountant who likes quiet spreadsheets, weekend ribs, and the kind of yard that minds its own business. We live on a sleepy loop in Ponderosa Bend where cul-de-sacs breed. Gossip like hydrangeas. The HOA ruler is Beverly Hanlon with helmet hair, pearl, visor, and a smile taught as packing. Tape. She runs board meetings like a witch trial with refreshments. My daughter Maya had been practicing a jump rope routine for the school talent show. The soundtrack was a Bluetooth speaker at polite kitchen volume and the faint slap of rope on pavement. The first sign of trouble came on a Tuesday afternoon when Maya was practicing her routine in our driveway. Beverly appeared with her measuring tape and clipboard, standing exactly at our property line like she was marking territory. She didn't say anything that day, just stood there writing notes and occasionally holding up her phone to record. Maya asked me why the lady was watching her, and I told her some people just have too much time on their hands. Beverly heard that, and her smile got even tighter if that was physically possible. Warnings appeared like fortune. Cookies for the damned. Improper use of public tranquility. Transient percussion. After 5 p.m., unlicensed rhythmic activity. The citations were printed on official-looking letterhead that Beverly had clearly made herself, complete with a fake seal that looked like clip art from 1997. Beverly started a patrol wearing a high-visibility vest, clipboard, and a fake compliance badge that looked bought from a Halloween aisle. She paced our loop with a decibel meter, pointed it at squirrels. Then my house, then the sky, like she was conducting some kind of scientific experiment that only made sense in her head. She posted on the neighborhood app with messages that got progressively more unhinged. Certain residents think our sidewalks are training facilities. Some people have no respect for community standards. The sound of children playing is not what our founding homeowners intended. Yes, she actually wrote founding homeowners like we lived in some kind of residential, constitutional democracy. The board dropped a fine on my porch for juvenile nuisance, then another for music audible from curb. The fine started at 25, then jumped to 50, then 100. I ignored them because they weren't real fines, just Beverly's fantasy enforcement system. Beverly didn't like being ignored. She started recruiting allies, going door to door with a petition about noise pollution and property values. Most neighbors politely declined to sign, but she got 3 signatures from the retirement row at the end of the street. People who complained when leaves fell too loudly. Beverly started calling herself the director of community standards, a title she made up and added to her email signature. She even had business cards printed. I know because she slipped one under my windshield wiper with a note that said, "Final warning" in red ink. On Thursday, at 6:12 p.m., Beverly marched up mid chorus of Maya's routine, barking about racket and ordinance violations. Her voice had that shrill quality that made windows vibrate, ironically creating more noise than my daughter's speaker ever could. I reached for the speaker to turn it down, trying to de-escalate the situation like a reasonable adult. Beverly reached for her purse and produced a pastel pink stun gun like a mean marshmallow. She clicked it once, blue arcs kissing the air in a threat. Display for moms who've never seen a courtroom. The sound it made was like angry electricity, a crackling that made every parent instinct in my body go to red alert. Maya dropped her jump rope and stepped backward. Beverly stepped forward, saying something about citizens. Arrest and maintaining order. I stepped between them and said, "Back off." Beverly in the calmest voice I could. Manage. While my heart was trying to escape through my ribs, she lunged. Anyway, and the thing cracked against Maya's forearm. It was more scare than shock, the device barely making contact, but enough to knock the rope from her hands and freeze the whole street in. That awful ringing silence, I reacted. Faster than I thought I could, my hand went forward in a clean slap, a sharp pop that stunned the PTA out of her. The sound echoed off the garage doors like a starter pistol at a very strange race. Beverly's face went from triumph to shock to rage in about 2 seconds. Then I moved to Maya, sat her down on the curb, and called 911 while Beverly stood there, touching her cheek like she couldn't believe someone had finally stood up to her reign of terror. The 911 operator was remarkably calm as I explained that an HOA president had just attacked my child with a stun gun. I could hear typing, and then the operator said with a slightly incredulous tone, "Did you say HOA president and stun gun in the same sentence?" "Yes, ma'am," I replied. "And she's still holding it." The operator's voice got very serious very fast. "Officers are on the way. Keep your distance from the weapon." I told her we were sitting on the curb and the woman was now performing what looked like amateur theater in my driveway. Sirens came within 4 minutes. Neighbors glowed to life with porches lighting up, phones coming out, doorbells recording, the whole ring cam cavalry bearing witness. Beverly started her performance art by clutching her pearls, pointing at her reeling cheek, moaning assault like she was auditioning for a soap opera. She told anyone who would listen that she was the victim here, that she was performing her duties as HOA president, that I was a violent individual who had attacked her unprovoked. The first officer arrived, then a second, then a third, which seemed like overkill until they saw Beverly still waving the stun gun around while gesticulating wildly about property values. I kept my voice calm, hands visible, and said 3 things. "I'm the caller. My child was attacked. Collect the cameras." The officers did the rarest thing in suburban drama history. They listened. One officer carefully approached Beverly and asked her to put the device down. She responded by saying she had authority here and flashing her fake badge. One retrieved Beverly's toy thunderstick using gloves like it was evidence, which it was. Another walked the loop asking for footage, and suddenly everyone wanted to help. Turns out Beverly had been terrorizing the neighborhood for months, and everyone had doorbell videos of her various infractions. There was footage of her measuring grass with a ruler at 6 a.m., of her putting violation notices on cars parked in driveways, of her yelling at a birthday party for excessive balloon presents. The body cams caught my daughter's forearm with a light mark, and rising welt, and Beverly's crackling prop still sparking occasionally like it had anger management issues of its own. When Beverly tried to argue she was authorized security, the officer asked. Authorized by who? And the vest suddenly looked like a costume again. She stammered something about the HOA, charter and community guidelines. The officer asked to see this charter. Beverly said it was at home. The officer said, "We'll wait." By sundown, Beverly was in the back seat, hands folded. Facing charges the officer recited like a grocery list. Assault, use of a stun, device against a minor, impersonating, security brandishing. The last one seemed to confuse Beverly, who said with genuine confusion, "I don't even own a sword." The officer explained that brandishing meant threatening with any weapon. Beverly's response was to claim the stun gun wasn't a weapon, but a compliance tool. Even the officer had to pause at that one. The HOA board tried to hold an emergency meeting on the sidewalk. 5 board members showed up, in their pajamas and robes, looking like the world's saddest slumber party. They huddled near my mailbox, trying to figure out damage control. The officer shut it down with, "Ma'am, this is now a crime scene. Please disperse." One board member asked if they could at least vote to distance themselves from Beverly's actions. The officer said they could vote wherever they wanted as long as it wasn't here. The detective watched the ring footage from multiple angles, like he was analyzing game tape. There was Beverly stepping forward with the weapon, my defensive slap, me immediately retreating and calling 911. He said, "Looks like defensive force. Minimal," and ceased. More to his report than to me. He asked Mia to describe what happened, and she did with the clarity that only kids possess, including the detail that Beverly smelled like mothballs and disappointment. The detective tried not to laugh at that part. I signed a statement that was surprisingly straightforward. Maya got checked out by EMTs, who gave her a popsicle and said she was tougher than most adults they dealt with. The detective asked if we'd pursue a protective order. I said yes. Maya asked if we could still do the talent show. I said absolutely. Then she asked if Beverly would go to jail. The detective said that would be up to a judge, but there would definitely be consequences. 3 weeks later, Ponderosa Bend HOA held a very different meeting, this time at the library under the kind watch of laminated posters about being quiet and respectful. They voted Beverly out unanimously, even the 3 people from Retirement Row who had signed her petition. They adopted a no weapons on patrol policy, which shouldn't have needed to be written down. But here we were. They issued a letter to the whole neighborhood that read like a breakup note with liability concerns, distancing themselves from Beverly's actions and promising a new era of reasonable governance. The district attorney filed charges, and Beverly's lawyer, who looked tired before the hearing even started, negotiated a plea deal. Beverly accepted 1 year of probation, 200 hours of community service at the Pine Corey Youth Center, which was irony so thick you could pave, a Koldak with it, and a 5-year restraining order keeping her 50 yards for my family and any organized juvenile activity, including jump ropes. Our civil suit settled fast with funds for counseling, a scholarship account for Maya, and a shiny new playground, sound wall that looks like public art and functions like peace. The criminal case resolved with Beverly pleading no contest to assault with a weapon and impersonating an officer. The judge, who seemed personally offended by the fake badge, sentenced her to the probation terms plus $10,000 in fines. When the amount was read, Beverly's mouth opened and closed like a fish trying to understand air. She actually raised her hand like she was in school and asked if she could pay in installments. The judge said that could be arranged and then added that her HOA president status held no weight in this courtroom. Beverly's face went through all 5 stages of grief in about 10 seconds before landing on an expression of complete defeat.